Champions have routines. Do you have a routine? I'm Gene Zanetti from Winning Mindset. We're a systematic sports psychology program designed to help athletes and teams overcome their mental blocks and win more in sports and in life. Let's talk about routines. All great athletes have a routine right before they go out to compete. Think about a golfer. Before they take their shot, they have a pre-putting routine or a pre-swing routine. It's something they do over and over and over every time before they strike the ball. Same thing in wrestling. Sport that I grew up with, the best wrestlers, they do the same thing right before they step out onto the mat. The 15 to 20 minutes before they step out and wrestle, they do the same exact things. Think about a pitcher in baseball. They do the same things. They tell themselves the same words. They think the same thoughts. They're in the same emotional level right before they throw the ball. Same thing with a batter in baseball. Same thing in basketball before you take a free throw. Same thing in volleyball before you serve the ball. Same thing before a tennis player serves the ball. And on and on and on it goes. The best speakers have routines before they speak in front of people. The best managers and business owners, they have routines before they go into their meetings. So you need a routine. Let's talk about your sport. Whatever it might be, you need to have a routine right before you go out there to compete. Now, this is different than your warm-up. Your warm-up is generally what you're doing with your team about a half hour to an hour before you go and compete. I'm speaking more about the 10 to 15 minutes right before you start competing. 4 key elements. 1, dynamic stretching. 2, deep breathing. 3, some element of fun. And 4, some kind of sport-related activity. I'll go through all of them quickly. Dynamic stretching, that's key. You want to make sure before you compete, you're not doing static stretching where you're staying still. You want to do dynamic stretching where you're moving, you're waking your body up. This activates your neuromuscular system. It gets you ready. So, in the same order, move through the same stretches every time. Number 2, deep breathing. You should take about 2 minutes worth of deep breaths. Now, in all sports, that's not feasible. If you're a pitcher, you need to take maybe 1 or 2 deep breaths before you pitch, or the same thing with the batter. Whatever sport you're in, it's going to have to be tweaked to where you are at. So, deep breaths. If you can take up to 2 minutes of deep breaths, do it. If not, 1 or 2 deep breaths is fine. It relaxes you, it calms you down, you'll be less jittery, you'll have less racing thoughts, and you'll feel much more, I just feel much more centered, rooted in the earth. I'm not all over the place. My mind isn't scatterbrained. I'm not thinking about everything going on. I'm much more in the present moment. Number 3, some kind of element of fun. Generally speaking, before we perform, before we compete, before we take a test, before you ask someone out on a date, before you speak in public, before you compete, you tend to take yourself too serious, don't you? I know I did. So to counteract that, of course, everything else in the pre-competition routine is going to do that. But one of the key things you can do is have something you're doing to remind yourself to smile and laugh. Maybe it's listening to a funny song, telling someone a joke, make a funny face, do some dance moves, something that's your element of fun that will remind you to don't take yourself so serious. Relax, ease up a little bit. It's just a sport. Or if you're speaking in front of people, it's just a speech. It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of the world. So you need some element of fun which is going to directly counteract the nerves. And number 4 is some sports-specific drills or technique. Notice a golfer, before they strike the ball, they take 1 or 2 practice swings. A wrestler might do some drilling with their partner before they go out there. A field goal kicker, a kicker in football, takes a couple practice kicks. So whatever it is with your sport, you need to be doing this before you step out and compete. You want to make practice feel similar to a competition and competition to feel similar to practice. In other words, a lot of times before people compete, right before they go out there, they don't do anything that simulates their sport, so they step out there cold. Did you ever feel like you were competing cold? You just weren't into it? Your body wasn't ready to go? That's not necessarily your warm-up. It's your pre-competition routine. It's your pre-swing routine, your pre-match routine, your pre-serve routine, your pre-competition routine. That's usually what's keeping you from performing at your best. So you need to get into your sport before you're actually into it. So have some kind of sport-related activity. And finally, I'll give you one more bonus: chew gum. Studies show that when you chew gum, it decreases social anxiety. Now, you want to spit it out before you go out and compete, but if you feel nervous before a competition, along with those 4 other points that I gave you, which are the most important, you could also have the added benefit of chewing gum, which lowers your anxiety levels. So remember, but that's not the most important thing. The gum is the least important. The 4 key ingredients to a great pre-competition routine: dynamic stretching, deep breathing, an element of fun, and sport-specific drilling, sport-specific activity, so you feel like you're out there before you're out there. If you incorporate all 4 of those key ingredients into a pre-competition routine, you're automatically going to be competing better. Absolutely, positively guaranteed. Write it down on paper. Don't leave it in your head. Put the pen to paper and draw it out. What are you going to tell yourself? What behaviors are you going to take? How are you going to incorporate those 4 key ingredients? What's my emotional level going to be like on a scale of 1 to 10? Some people need to be more calm. Some people need to be more fired up. Some people need to be somewhere in the middle. So write it down. Don't leave it to chance. Include those 4 key ingredients, and you're going to see a totally different competitor. You're going to feel way better, and you're going to be having a lot more fun. Whether it's sports, school, or life, mindset makes the difference.